Good morning, gentlemen. Dr. James Whittaker here. And today we're going to talk about something that affects nearly every man over 50, and that's prostate health, specifically benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, which is the medical term for an enlarged prostate. Now, I know what you're thinking. Fruits are healthy. How could any fruit possibly be bad for my prostate? And you're right to be skeptical of any video claiming that healthy foods are secretly dangerous. That's not what I'm saying here. What I am going to explain, based on solid medical evidence, is how certain fruits, when consumed in excessive amounts or in particular forms, can worsen the urinary symptoms associated with an enlarged prostate. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which fruits to limit or avoid, why they cause problems, and most importantly, what you should eat instead to support optimal prostate health. Before we dive into the specific fruits, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm a board-certified physician who spent over 2 decades helping men navigate health challenges, and I create these videos to give you practical, evidence-based information that can actually improve your quality of life. If you find value in what we discussed today, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now let me start by making sure we all understand what we're dealing with. Benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH, is a non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate gland that's incredibly common as men age. By age 50, about half of all men have some degree of prostate enlargement. By age 80, that number approaches 90%. The prostate gland surrounds your urethra, the tube that carries urine from your bladder out through your penis. As the prostate enlarges, it compresses this urethra, creating the classic symptoms that probably brought you to this video: difficulty starting urination, weak urine stream, feeling like you can't completely empty your bladder, frequent urination, especially at night, sudden urgent need to urinate, and dribbling at the end of urination. These symptoms can range from mildly annoying to absolutely miserable, disrupting your sleep, limiting your activities, and significantly impacting your quality of life. Now, here's what most men don't realize and what most doctors don't adequately explain. While medications and sometimes surgery are necessary for severe BPH, dietary factors play an enormous role in symptom severity. Certain foods and beverages can dramatically worsen urinary symptoms, while others can provide significant relief. Let me know in the comments below what country you're watching from and whether you're currently experiencing BPH symptoms. I'm always interested to see our global community, and your engagement helps this information reach more men who desperately need it. Before we get to the specific fruits to avoid, I need to explain the mechanisms by which diet affects BPH symptoms, because understanding this will help you make informed choices beyond just memorizing a list. There are 3 primary ways that foods, including certain fruits, can worsen BPH symptoms. First, diuretic effects. Some foods and beverages increase urine production, meaning your bladder fills more quickly and you need to urinate more frequently. If you already have an obstructed urethra from an enlarged prostate, increasing urine volume makes your symptoms worse. Second, bladder irritation. Certain compounds can irritate the bladder lining, causing urgency, frequency, and discomfort. An irritated bladder combined with outlet obstruction from BPH is a particularly miserable combination. And third, inflammation and hormonal effects. Some dietary components promote inflammation or affect hormones in ways that can worsen prostate enlargement over time. Now let's get to the specific fruits you need to be cautious about. I'm going to list these in order from worst to less problematic, explaining exactly why each one causes issues and what you should do instead. Fruit number 1, and this might surprise you because it's often considered a health food: grapefruit. Grapefruit and grapefruit juice are problematic for men with BPH for 2 distinct reasons. First, grapefruit is highly acidic, and this acidity can significantly irritate the bladder, increasing urgency and frequency. Many of my patients report that grapefruit makes them feel like they constantly need to urinate with greater urgency. Second, and this is critical if you're taking medications, grapefruit contains compounds called furanocoumarins that interfere with the enzyme CYP3A4 in your liver and intestines. This enzyme is responsible for metabolizing many medications, including some commonly prescribed for BPH like tamsulosin and other alpha blockers. When you consume grapefruit, it can dramatically increase the blood levels of these medications, potentially causing side effects like dizziness, low blood pressure, and increased urinary symptoms. The interaction can last for 24 hours or more after consuming grapefruit. My recommendation is to avoid grapefruit entirely if you have BPH, particularly if you're taking any medications. If you love citrus, switch to oranges or mandarins, which don't have the same medication interactions and are less acidic and irritating to the bladder. Fruit number 2, cranberries. And this one confuses many men because cranberries are famous for urinary tract health. Here's the truth about cranberries and BPH. Yes, cranberry juice can help prevent urinary tract infections by preventing bacteria from adhering to the bladder wall. That's well established. However, for men with BPH, cranberries pose significant problems. Cranberries are extremely acidic, even more so than grapefruit, and this acidity irritates the bladder considerably. Most commercial cranberry juice is loaded with added sugar to make it palatable, and high sugar intake worsens inflammation throughout the body, including in the prostate. Even unsweetened cranberry juice is so tart that most people can't tolerate it without some sweetening. Additionally, cranberry juice has mild diuretic properties, increasing urine production and frequency. For a man with BPH who's already struggling with frequent urination, particularly at night, adding a diuretic to the equation makes symptoms substantially worse. I had a patient named Robert, 67 years old, who was drinking 16 ounces of cranberry juice daily because he'd read it was good for urinary health. He was also getting up 4 to 5 times every night to urinate and was absolutely exhausted. When we eliminated the cranberry juice, along with making a few other changes, his nighttime urination decreased to 1 to 2 times per night within a week. He was amazed that something he thought was helping was actually making his symptoms dramatically worse. My recommendation is to avoid cranberry juice entirely if you have BPH. If you're concerned about urinary tract infections, discuss other prevention strategies with your doctor, such as staying well hydrated with plain water and maintaining good hygiene. The bladder irritation and increased urination from cranberries far outweigh any potential benefit for men with prostate enlargement. Fruit number 3, citrus fruits consumed in large quantities, particularly in juice form. I'm talking about oranges, lemons, limes, and similar fruits. Now, I need to be specific here because the issue isn't eating an orange or having lemon in your water occasionally. The problem arises with excessive consumption or drinking citrus juices. Citrus fruits are acidic, and that acidity can irritate the bladder, increasing urgency and frequency. Orange juice in particular is problematic because people tend to drink large quantities, often 16 ounces or more at breakfast. And that volume of acidic liquid both irritates the bladder and increases urine production. Additionally, commercial orange juice often contains added sugars that promote inflammation. The vitamin C in citrus fruits is beneficial, but you don't need huge amounts, and you can get adequate vitamin C from less problematic sources. My recommendation is to limit citrus fruits to small amounts, perhaps 1 small orange or a few slices of citrus in your water, and avoid citrus juices entirely. If you're drinking orange juice for vitamin C, you'll get more benefit from eating bell peppers, strawberries, or broccoli, all of which provide vitamin C without the bladder irritation. Fruit number 4, watermelon, and this one disappoints many of my patients because they love watermelon, especially in summer. Watermelon is over 90% water, which means it's essentially a diuretic in food form. Eating a few slices of watermelon can significantly increase your urine production over the next several hours. For a man with BPH, this means more frequent trips to the bathroom, more urgency, and more nighttime awakenings if you eat watermelon in the evening. Additionally, watermelon is relatively high in natural sugars, and while these aren't as problematic as added sugars, consuming large quantities does spike your blood sugar and promote inflammation. I'm not saying you can never eat watermelon, but you need to be strategic about it. If you do eat watermelon, have small portions, eat it earlier in the day rather than evening, and be prepared for increased urination over the next few hours. Don't eat watermelon before a long car ride, before bed, or any time when frequent bathroom access isn't convenient. Many of my patients find that simply timing their watermelon consumption appropriately and limiting portion size allows them to enjoy it occasionally without significant symptom worsening. Fruit number 5, grapes and raisins, particularly in large quantities. Grapes are relatively high in natural sugars, and eating a large bowl of grapes or a handful of raisins can spike your blood sugar considerably. Elevated blood sugar promotes inflammation throughout the body, including in the prostate. Additionally, grapes have mild diuretic properties due to their potassium content, which can increase urination frequency. Raisins are particularly problematic because they're concentrated dried grapes, meaning you consume far more sugar in a small volume. It's easy to eat a cup of raisins without thinking about it, but that's equivalent to about 4 cups of fresh grapes in terms of sugar content. That amount of sugar absolutely promotes inflammation and can worsen BPH symptoms over time. My recommendation is to treat grapes as an occasional treat in small portions, perhaps half a cup, rather than eating large quantities regularly. Avoid raisins entirely or limit them to very small amounts, like a tablespoon sprinkled on oatmeal. There are much better fruit options that provide nutrition without the sugar load and diuretic effect. Fruit number 6, pineapple in large amounts. Pineapple contains an enzyme called bromelain that has anti-inflammatory properties, which is actually beneficial. However, pineapple is also quite acidic and relatively high in natural sugars. The acidity can irritate the bladder in some men, particularly if consumed in large quantities or as juice. The bigger issue with pineapple is how it's typically consumed. Fresh pineapple in reasonable portions, perhaps half a cup, is probably fine for most men with BPH. But pineapple juice, which many men drink in large quantities, is highly acidic, high in sugar, and has diuretic properties. It's one of the worst choices for bladder health. Additionally, canned pineapple is often packed in heavy syrup, adding even more sugar that promotes inflammation. My recommendation is to enjoy fresh pineapple in small portions occasionally, avoid pineapple juice entirely, and definitely avoid canned pineapple in syrup. If you want the anti-inflammatory benefits of bromelain, you can take it as a supplement in controlled doses, which gives you the benefit without the bladder irritation and sugar. Fruit number 7, bananas in excessive amounts. Though this one comes with important nuance. Bananas are generally one of the better fruit choices, being low in acidity and rich in beneficial nutrients like potassium and vitamin B6. However, they can be problematic in specific situations. First, bananas are relatively high in natural sugars, with a medium banana containing about 14 grams. If you're eating multiple bananas daily, that sugar load adds up and promotes inflammation. Second, the high potassium content in bananas can have mild diuretic effects in some people, increasing urination frequency. This varies considerably between individuals, so some men notice increased urination after eating bananas while others don't. Third, bananas can cause constipation in some men, particularly if they're not ripe. Constipation worsens BPH symptoms because a full rectum can press against the prostate and further obstruct the urethra. This is why some men notice their urinary symptoms worsen when they're constipated. My recommendation with bananas is moderation and observation. One banana daily is probably fine for most men with BPH. If you notice increased urinary frequency or constipation after eating bananas, reduce your intake. Make sure you're eating ripe bananas, which are easier to digest and less likely to cause constipation. And if you're eating bananas for potassium, know that leafy greens, avocados, and salmon also provide potassium without the sugar content. Now, before we move on to what you should eat instead, let me address the form in which you consume fruit, because this matters enormously. Fruit juice is significantly worse for BPH symptoms than whole fruit for several reasons. Juice removes the fiber, causing the natural sugars to hit your bloodstream much faster, creating a larger blood sugar spike and more inflammation. Juice is consumed in much larger quantities than you'd eat in whole fruit form. You might drink 16 ounces of orange juice containing the juice of 4 to 6 oranges, but you'd probably never sit down and eat 4 to 6 whole oranges. Juice has more concentrated acidity that irritates the bladder more than whole fruit, and juice loses nutrients during processing and storage, so you get less nutritional benefit. My blanket recommendation for all men with BPH is to avoid all fruit juices, including those you might think are healthy, like pomegranate juice, tart cherry juice, or any other variety. If you want the nutrients, eat the whole fruit in reasonable portions. The fiber in whole fruit slows sugar absorption. You naturally eat less when eating whole fruit versus drinking juice, and you get the full nutritional benefit, including fiber, that supports digestive health. Let me also address dried fruits briefly. Dried fruits like dates, Figs, dried apricots, and prunes are extremely concentrated sources of sugar because the water has been removed. This means you consume far more sugar in a small volume. While prunes are often recommended for constipation, which is a legitimate consideration, the high sugar content is problematic for inflammation and BPH. If you need help with constipation, which as I mentioned can worsen BPH symptoms, I'd rather see you increase your vegetable intake, stay well hydrated with plain water, and possibly use a magnesium supplement rather than relying on dried fruits. Now let's talk about what you should eat instead, because I don't want to just tell you what to avoid. I want to give you positive alternatives that actively support prostate health. The best fruits for men with BPH are those that are low in sugar, low in acidity, high in beneficial compounds like antioxidants and anti-inflammatory phytonutrients, and don't have diuretic properties. Here are my top recommendations. Berries, particularly blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, and blackberries, are excellent choices. They're relatively low in sugar compared to most fruits, packed with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, low in acidity and unlikely to irritate the bladder, and high in fiber, which supports metabolic health. I recommend eating 1 to 2 cups of mixed berries daily. They're perfect added to Greek yogurt, in smoothies, or just eaten plain. Tomatoes, yes, tomatoes are botanically a fruit, are one of the absolute best foods for prostate health. They contain lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that's been extensively studied for prostate health. Research consistently shows that higher lycopene intake is associated with lower risk of prostate cancer and may help reduce prostate inflammation. Cooked tomatoes, like in tomato sauce, actually have more bioavailable lycopene than raw tomatoes. I recommend including tomatoes in some form daily, whether as sauce, in soups, or roasted. Avocados are another excellent choice. They're low in sugar, high in healthy monounsaturated fats that support hormone production, rich in anti-inflammatory compounds, and contain beta-sitosterol, a plant compound that's been shown to improve urinary symptoms in men with BPH. 1/4 to 1/2 an avocado daily is an excellent addition to your diet. Apples in moderation, perhaps 1 small apple daily, are generally well tolerated and provide beneficial fiber and antioxidants without excessive sugar or acidity. The old saying, "an apple a day keeps the doctor away," has some merit, though moderation is key. Papaya in small amounts can be beneficial because it contains enzymes that aid digestion and anti-inflammatory compounds, though it should be limited to small portions due to sugar content. And pomegranate, but only in whole fruit form, never as juice, has been studied specifically for prostate health with some promising results. However, a whole pomegranate is quite labor-intensive to eat, which naturally limits how much you consume. Beyond fruit, the best dietary approach for BPH includes plenty of vegetables, particularly cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts, which contain compounds that support healthy hormone metabolism, leafy greens for magnesium and anti-inflammatory nutrients, fatty fish like salmon for omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation, nuts and seeds, particularly pumpkin seeds, which contain zinc and other compounds beneficial for prostate health, and adequate protein to maintain muscle mass and metabolic health. You also want to limit or avoid things beyond the fruits we've discussed. Alcohol, particularly beer, is a bladder irritant and diuretic that significantly worsens BPH symptoms. Caffeine, especially in large amounts or late in the day, is both a bladder irritant and diuretic. Spicy foods can irritate the bladder in some men. Processed foods high in sugar and unhealthy fats promote inflammation, and excessive salt intake can worsen fluid retention and urination frequency. Let me share a comprehensive patient story that brings all of this together. Michael was 63 years old when he came to see me, absolutely miserable with BPH symptoms. He was getting up 4 to 6 times every night to urinate, often with urgent rushes to the bathroom. His daytime symptoms were also significant, with frequent urination, weak stream, and constant feeling that he needed to go. His quality of life was terrible. He was exhausted from poor sleep, anxious about being far from a bathroom, and his relationship with his wife was suffering. When I evaluated Michael, his prostate was significantly enlarged, and he was a candidate for medication or eventually surgery. But before pursuing those options, I wanted to see what we could achieve with dietary and lifestyle changes. When I reviewed Michael's typical diet, I immediately saw multiple problems. He was drinking 16 ounces of orange juice every morning, thinking it was healthy. He loved cranberry juice and drank it throughout the day, also thinking it was good for urinary health. He ate a large bowl of grapes most evenings while watching television, and he drank 3 to 4 cups of coffee daily, with the last cup in late afternoon. His diet was essentially designed to maximally worsen BPH symptoms. We made comprehensive changes. We eliminated all fruit juices immediately, replacing his morning orange juice with a protein-rich breakfast with berries. We eliminated the cranberry juice and replaced it with plain water with lemon slices, encouraging him to drink most of his fluids before 3 p.m. rather than in the evening. We replaced the evening grapes with a small serving of mixed berries. We cut his coffee to 1 cup in the morning only, switching to herbal tea for his afternoon warm beverage. We increased his vegetable intake dramatically, particularly tomatoes and cruciferous vegetables. We added fatty fish 3 times weekly and a handful of pumpkin seeds daily. And we added some specific supplements including saw palmetto, beta-sitosterol, and vitamin D, though the dietary changes were the foundation. Michael was skeptical that diet could make such a difference, but he was desperate enough to try. Within 1 week, his nighttime urination decreased from 4 to 6 times to 2 to 3 times. Within 1 month, he was typically getting up only once per night, sometimes sleeping through the entire night. His daytime symptoms improved dramatically as well, with less urgency and better stream. At 3 months, Michael's quality of life had transformed. He was sleeping well, his anxiety about bathrooms had resolved, his energy was back, and he told me he felt like a different person. Did we cure his enlarged prostate? No, his prostate was still enlarged on examination. But we managed his symptoms so effectively through diet and lifestyle that he didn't need medication or surgery. 5 years later, Michael is still doing well with continued dietary management. His story illustrates something crucial. While you may not be able to shrink your prostate significantly through diet alone, you can dramatically improve your symptoms and quality of life by avoiding foods that worsen symptoms and emphasizing foods that support prostate health. Now let me give you a practical action plan for implementing this information. Starting today, eliminate all fruit juices from your diet. This is the single most impactful change you can make immediately. Replace juice with plain water, herbal tea, or water with a small amount of fresh lemon or cucumber for flavor. Second, assess your current fruit intake and identify which problematic fruits you're consuming regularly. If you're eating grapefruit, cranberries, or large amounts of watermelon, grapes, or citrus, make a plan to replace these with berries, small amounts of apples, or the other recommended options. Third, shift your fluid intake to earlier in the day. Consume the majority of your fluids before 3 or 4 p.m., then limit intake in the evening to minimize nighttime urination. Fourth, increase your vegetable intake, particularly tomatoes and cruciferous vegetables. Aim for at least 5 servings of vegetables daily. Fifth, consider adding prostate-supportive foods daily, including a handful of pumpkin seeds, 1/4 avocado, and fatty fish 3 times weekly. Sixth, evaluate your caffeine and alcohol intake. If you're drinking multiple cups of coffee or drinking alcohol regularly, these are likely worsening your symptoms significantly. And finally, track your symptoms objectively. Keep a simple log for 2 weeks noting how many times you urinate during the day, how many times you wake at night to urinate, and any urgency or difficulty with stream. After you implement these dietary changes, track for another 2 weeks and compare. Most men see measurable improvement that motivates them to continue. Before we wrap up, let me address some common questions. Question 1. Can diet really make that much difference, or will I definitely need medication or surgery? For mild to moderate BPH, diet and lifestyle changes can often provide sufficient symptom relief that medication isn't necessary. For more severe BPH, diet alone may not be enough, but it will significantly enhance the effectiveness of medications and may delay or prevent the need for surgery. Even if you do need medical intervention, optimizing your diet will improve your outcomes and quality of life. Question 2, what about supplements like saw palmetto or beta-sitosterol? there's reasonable evidence that certain supplements can help with BPH symptoms. Saw palmetto, beta-sitosterol, pygum, and ryegrass pollen extract all have studies supporting their use. However, supplements work best when combined with dietary changes, not as a replacement for poor diet. I often recommend supplements as part of a comprehensive approach, but diet is the foundation. Question 3. How long until I notice improvement? Most men notice some improvement within 1 to 2 weeks of eliminating the worst offenders, particularly fruit juices and excessive caffeine. More substantial improvement typically occurs over 1 to 3 months as inflammation decreases and your overall health improves. Be patient and consistent. Question 4. I love grapefruit. Do I really have to give it up completely? If you have BPH symptoms, particularly if you're on medications, yes, grapefruit needs to be eliminated. I understand it's difficult to give up foods you love, but the symptom improvement you'll experience by avoiding it is worth the sacrifice. There are many other delicious fruits that won't worsen your symptoms. And question 5. What's the single most important dietary change I can make for BPH? Eliminating all fruit juices, particularly cranberry, grapefruit, and orange juice, will provide the most immediate and noticeable improvement for most men. This one change addresses multiple problems simultaneously, reducing bladder irritation, reducing diuretic effects, and reducing sugar and inflammation. Let me summarize the key points. BPH is extremely common and causes urinary symptoms that can be dramatically affected by diet. The 7 worst fruits and fruit products for BPH are grapefruit for acidity and medication interactions, cranberry juice for acidity and diuretic effects, citrus fruits in large amounts or as juice for acidity and bladder irritation, watermelon for diuretic effects, grapes and raisins for high sugar content, pineapple in large amounts or as juice for acidity and sugar, and bananas in excess for sugar content and potential diuretic effects. Fruit juice is universally bad for BPH and should be eliminated entirely. The best fruits for prostate health are berries, tomatoes, avocados, and small amounts of apples. Beyond fruit, focus on vegetables, fatty fish, nuts and seeds, and adequate protein while avoiding alcohol, excessive caffeine, and processed foods. Most men notice significant improvement within 2 to 4 weeks of dietary changes. I want to hear from you in the comments. Which of these problematic fruits are you currently consuming regularly? Are you ready to make changes to improve your symptoms? What questions do you have about diet and prostate health? Your engagement helps me create content that serves you better. If you found this information valuable and potentially life-changing for your quality of life, please hit that like button so more men can discover this evidence-based approach to managing BPH symptoms. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because next week I'm going to discuss the 5 best exercises for prostate health, including pelvic floor exercises that can significantly improve urinary symptoms. That video will complement today's discussion perfectly. Check out my playlist on men's health over 50. There are several videos there covering topics like testosterone, sexual health, and healthy aging, all approached with the same evidence-based, practical perspective. As always, the information in this video is for educational purposes only and should not replace individualized medical advice from your own healthcare provider. If you have significant BPH symptoms, blood in your urine, or complete inability to urinate, see your doctor immediately. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue exploring practical strategies for maintaining health, vitality, and quality of life as we age. Remember, BPH symptoms don't have to control your life. With the right dietary approach consistently applied, you can dramatically improve your symptoms and reclaim the sleep and freedom you deserve. Take care.